Welcome to this very special edition of The Author's Voice with KJ, a show where we explore the stories behind the stories. Here we dive into the worlds created by authors, discover their inspirations, and ensure that you walk away enriched and inspired. And today we have with us author Carlos Davidovich, and he's a neuromanagement expert and an executive coach, and he applies neuroscience in organizations and businesses. He has written several books, and today we'll be talking about his book, Five Brain Leadership. Let's dive into the story behind the story. Welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thanks a lot, and I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for the invitation, really.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show once again, this time on the author's voice with KJ. Earlier it was on the KJ Masterclass Live. So here we'll be focusing more about this particular book of yours, about the five brain leadership. But before we come to that, let's understand a bit about your journey as an author. You have written a couple of books. So I want to understand what inspired you to become an author, Carlos?
That is a great question, by the way, because to be honest, and I will be 100% honest, I never wanted to write a book. So that was not my goal in life. And I was already working as a coach, giving lectures and workshops. And I started working on this, I would say, new area that is bringing neuroscience to organization that lately is becoming more trendy. But when I started, it was really a new thing. And then my only credit, I'm not, let's say, a researcher, my only credit was on how to connect the dots about how the brain works and what happened in organization. And little by little, I started developing a series of workshops. And there was always a question at the end of my presentations. What can we read about this? And to be honest, there was no way because there's no book that was connecting the dots in the way I was presenting this. And then somebody said, well, write a book. And I said, oh my God, I didn't want to face that moment. And what I did, and it was a great idea, a great suggestion. And what I did is to, I would say, transform the workshops in a book. So all my experiences and the interaction with people and what people think about these topics. So in a way, I was arriving to be an author without wanting to be an author. So, but this is life. And you need to be very open to what life is offering step by step at any moment. If not, we miss the opportunity. That was a great opportunity. And in the end, it brought me a lot of, I will say, joy, because, for instance, to be here with you, and definitely for people, it's very important that whatever you say is written in a book, and definitely that was an add value and is an add value to my work. I don't know if I responded to your question.
Of course, of course, of course. I was listening to about how, and it's always nice to listen to your to authors. They are well known, but when you ask, sometimes you will come to know that actually they did not plan to it, and many a times great things just happen unplanned. So, which book came in first? This one, this particular five brain leadership, or you also wrote co-author personality DNA, discover your true personality.
That is a fascinating book as well. And that book, I will say, I was honored to be invited to be a co-author by Larry KAJ. He is a creator of an assessment of personality that I will say the most profound that is in the market, that is Success Finder. And he said, I'm working on different type of personalities, and I will like, Carlos, that you will bring the neuroscience of personalities. So that was what I brought to the book. I mean, the core is his work. And I will say, painting with my knowledge of neuroscience regarding all these human different patterns of personality. And it's fascinating because it's a very simple way to access and to understand who you really are. So the book itself is an assessment. It has a QR code, and you do it very easily and very fast. And then you have let's say, the definition of who you are, which personality is the dominant on you, because we are a mix of things, as you know. And then each chapter is one of the personalities. So you don't need to read the whole book, you need to read your chapter, and you will find out tons of things about you. That's the purpose of this book. It's also really, really powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's come to this particular book of yours, Five Brain Leadership. And here it is on the screen. I'll show it for you. Yeah, Five Brain Leadership, Carlos. So tell us a bit about this particular book. Why Five Brain? I thought we had one brain, but you talk about Five Brain Leadership. So help us understand what this book is all about, who this book is all about.
What I understood in one moment that when you deconstruct the information, it's easier to understand. So we can say, technically, let's talk about science just a little bit, that we have one brain. I will say it differently. I will say the whole body is intertwined and connected and responds as one. This is the truth. And today we talk about the adaptive brain. So everything is there. It's like, it's like a big salad of things all connected, all related, and influencing each part to each other all the time. But we can identify specific narratives, specific characteristic of the brain. Another way would have been to say, okay, let's talk about the different part of the brain. But I felt that was more clear to say, in the same way that we have different, I would say, inner voices or inner personalities, those personalities respond to different brains. Remember that through evolution, human beings were adding brains, were not replacing brains. So we had one very, very, very old, 500 million years, that the famous reptilian brain, survival brain. Then the emotional brain. So even though emotions are all over the body, the headquarter is in our head. And then we have the rational brain that came to life not so long ago compared with the other two. But what we know today is that in our heart, we have neurons. So even though the guy who discovered in the 90s, he said, this is like a little brain. And now that is very trendy, we perfectly know that our gut has a complete nerve system. So far, so good. So there are different elements that we can define as nerve system in different parts of our body. The point is, all of them are connected with behavior. All of them are connected with emotions or instinct or rationality. Then in my head came the idea, or I would say the metaphor of talking about the internal team. So those members of ourself that express themselves in a completely very own characteristics with different purposes, different goals, different objectives. And one of our goals in life, based on the cliche, know yourself, is to understand these different narratives and to learn how to lead them to get to the right place. And in leadership, this is crucial. But that's why I say learn how to deal or lead your internal team, then, only then, you will be able to lead an external team that has similar characteristics, different personalities, different objectives, different goals, and everybody fighting for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, Carlos. So for a leader, should they manage these five brains first, or should they manage employees first? Which is the better idea?
The point is, my recommendation is, if you don't know yourself, it's very hard to manage others. And you don't need to become a psychologist or philosopher, okay? Just listen to yourself, and it's quite easy. That's what I help my clients, my coaching clients, to understand, because it's very easy to understand and to identify the different brains. And in that way, or the different narratives, in that way, you can understand exactly what you want. And you can understand where are you going, where you're heading to. And again, the external fight maybe is a tough word, but the external confrontation that we see in our external team, people trying to keep the control, happens inside. I don't know, I mean, how the all as an old quote, how is inside is outside. So we reflect exactly the same. Then my question to my clients always is, who is in control inside of you? Is your survival brain? Is your emotional brain, positive emotion, negative emotions? Because these are very clever. And this brain, they can take the control, I would say hijacking the rational brain. Then, when you understand this game, you start listening in a different way to your team members outside. And then it's not about the content, it's not what they say, it's how they say it. You know what I mean? People are very intelligent. They can use fantastic arguments to try to justify not exactly the best intentions or the most productive intentions for the team. So, as a leader, you really need to understand what is the intent, because that will determine the impact on the business and the organization. Make sense?
Of course, Carlos. So, who is this book for? Is it for only leaders or leaders under stress, or is it for others also?
No, the book, in principle, the book is for leaders in general. But I will say, and that what happened since I published the book, anyone that is working in organization, doesn't matter if you are a leader or not, because you can be a formal leader or you can be just a leader in the way you behave in the organization, will benefit from the book. In the book, there are different chapters: the process of changing the brain, biases, that's another huge topic nowadays. There are many ideas that will explain you how all these characteristics plays in the brain, and in that way you can really become more effective, more productive, more efficient in whatever you do. But what happened lately is people that are not in business necessary, they are reading the book and they say, wow, this is helping me to understand many things and to walk through life with a different lens, different way to see life and to see how I behave and others behave. So it's quite general, but responding to your question, I will say leaders in general, with a formal title or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about, mastering instincts. That's in the title of the book also, how neuroscience can help you master your instincts and build better teams. Now, where does instinct fit into a leadership's, role? Help us understand. I thought they should leave much more of these things and go by data and everything. Help us understand this.
This is a great point. We need to understand a basic concept of who we are as a human being. We are not rational beings that feel, we are emotional beings that think. So, the predominant characteristic of human brain is our emotions and instinct. So, and here instinct is used in a more broader way to say everything that is not rational. We need to believe that we are very rational, but I'm sorry to tell you, good night, we are not. So we don't get me wrong, the rational brain allows us to talk, the two of us right now, all the technology, and it's amazing, please. But it's new. And I will say is the one we trust less. The one that we trust the most still is our survival brain and our emotional brain. Those were with us for so many millions of years, and we know that if we are still alive, it's thanks to them. So the rational brain is trying to get into the game, little by little, giving us outstanding achievements, but not necessary are the one that we believe and that we trust in daily basis.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Carlos. So, one thing I want to understand from you, Carlos, is that when we talk of leadership and when we talk of five brain leadership, is it important for a leader to have all these five brains alive and kicking, or is it one brain or two brains less can still work? Which one is the most imperative? Which or any brain will be brain dead for leadership?
I love your question, really, Karanai. Let's put it this way: you cannot avoid to have the five, so there is no way out. And I like to explain it in a very concrete way. From the 100% of inputs that we receive from the outside through our senses, all the information that comes to us and how we process information, only 20%, so if we take 1 over 5 is 20%, is rational. Only 20%. The other 4, let's say the 80% of the inputs that we receive inside and outside, are linked with emotions and instinct. That is, I would say, the best reason to pay attention to that and try to understand how that works and to learn how to decode those emotions. Because I tell you, this is again, it's not to become a psychologist, it's just to become a productive human being. So, with very basic rules, to know very basic rules how the brain works is enough. I teach the 6 or 7 basic rules of the brain, and that gives the whole hallmark in the way that we behave every day. When you understand that, for instance, when you really accept that we are mainly emotional beings, that changed the whole game. And then you are able to deal with those emotions of your people and yourself first in a completely different way. And again, if we are talking about business, is to get the best business ever. I tell you, when I see what happened today in the world, I mean, I will not go into any details, but let's call it how volatile it is. And the concept of the VUCA world that we live today. This volatility shows that there is no irrational way to understand or to fix what is going on outside. So it's mainly what happened. All these waves and fluctuation are led by emotions and are led by instinct. And it's about, it's me or you. I mean, it's this kind of basic concept. It's not sitting around a table and rationalizing what is the best for us. That is not what happened right now. So understanding this dynamic first inside of me, then outside of me, I have more tools to solve a lot of problems and a lot of challenges, let's say. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn. You have written a couple of books. Earlier, we talked about any other book that is there in the pipeline, Carlos. Anything else that you are doing that you want the world to know about?
No, by now I'm writing another book. It's already written. By now it's in Spanish, but will be in English, and it's about connecting. It's a more it's more about life, connecting all these things about neuroscience with inner development. So the human development. So it's a little bit less technical or less focused on what happened in organization, and it's most about human experiences that also can leverage the knowledge of the different brains. That's what I'm working on right now. Let's see how that will go. But still, I'm really eager to share with the world this key concept of, please be aware or be mindful how emotions are working in this world. Be mindful that we are not robots. We will never be. And we need these human connections to be able to be successful. Then let's do the best that we can do with this part of ourselves. Let's not denial that we are emotional. Let's not say, no, I'm very rational and everything I do is completely rational, because that is a lie. Not because people want to lie, because people cannot be 100% rational. This is not how the human brain is built. And the decision making process is triggered in the emotional brain, not in the rational brain. What I tell you, I don't talk about science. I'm not a neuroscientist regarding research or those kind of things, and I don't need to be. I'm a medical doctor, so I can understand the concept perfectly. And I want to be practical. And I say, people, listen to you. Look at how you are. So today are so many things about emotional impact in the workplace. So, and this is just because we were in denial for many, many years, pretending that we are rational. No, we use rationality, but we are not rational. And this is just the basic concept to understand.
Absolutely. So, Carlos, in a nutshell, what do you want readers of your book? What message, what key insight to take away with them?
The first one is be open minded. The second one is pay attention who is talking inside of you, because then you will understand where are you going. And third, start learning simple facts, and accept simple facts of the dynamic of human interaction. In the end, we are talking about human behavior. In the end, we are talking about human communication. So we need to know all the technical things, and that's why we go to university to learn technical things, engineering. That is the base. But how we use those tools always will be connected with some kind of emotions. At the moment that people can understand and accept this, they will do a quantum leap in their life regarding results and productivity.
Absolutely. There's much to learn and understand from you about all this, Carlos, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, about your book. What's the best way for them to do so?
It's very simple today, you know that. First of all, my website is www.carlosdavidovich.com. That's it. Or always you can find me in LinkedIn, Carlos Davidovich MD. I mean, in LinkedIn is very easy. And I always respond to all the messages so people can write to me and we will connect it. No way, no other way.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of The Author's Voice with KJ. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.